talked about who should be in it, and another thing I want you to know, I didn't, as a director, I chose not to be in any of the interviews that you see. So I never heard anything that Zendaya said or Kadeem said or Whoopi said or anybody. I just pointed him to those people, and he and them, both being flies on the wall, could talk about me.
I love that.
Yeah.
I want to then ask you, Frederick, you love fashion.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't have a clue.
Where did you read that?
No, I didn't read that, but I'm going to guess
Assume.
because
Yeah.
of your work,
Yes,
right? You're
that's
talking
assumption.
about Valentino, the Last Emperor, Dior and I, the Diana Vreeland documentary, and Halston. You don't love fashion?
No. Let me
I got
speak for him.
trapped.
No, shut up. Okay. Let me tell you, he really is. The genius of it is that he doesn't have a clue. And yet, because of his talent, people ask him to do it. He's capable of doing it. But he's not someone who's a fashion kid. And that's what's so brilliant about it, too, because he was really my audience. He was someone who had no clue. He had a little bit of clue about me because he did my first 3 minutes, and then he of a little bit of a film for the short film for the CFDA award, and then that's how we connected. But I always admired his work. I thought his work was so wonderful. But in the end of the day, he so happens, fashion people keep going to him. He wants to just go and make a nice narrative or you know what he wants to do, people? He wants to do a film about plants.
Is that true?
Okay,
Yes,
go.
That's true.
Yes,
Yes, I was trying to do a remake of Stevie Wonder's film, actually. It's true. That's what I was going to
It's
do
true.
after this one.
Yeah.
But then now it's like a
Many
whole
other things.
range of different films, including some on fashion. But it's true that I'm an outsider looking in. Like I don't get invited to fashion shows. I'm not part of that world. I mean, I have one foot in, when I'm working on a project. And I'm never interested in the fashion story. I think that's what we connected it on. This has to reach beyond
Person.
fashion. This has to talk about,
Yeah.
themes of activism, of humanism, a woman's story, and that's what always drives me. Not the sort of insider fashion kind of thing, because that's just not my life, So, but we met in the context of fashion, though,
Yeah.
because Beth Ann mentioned this short film that we made together. That was right when Beth Ann's first film, Invisible Beauty, was dormant.
Yeah.
And I got approached to direct a 3-minute film when Beth Ann was getting the CFDA award, which you see in the film,
you see in the film.
ceremony. Yeah. So they needed to introduce it with a 3-minute short, and we did that very quickly in 2014, and that was my introduction to Beth Ann, because not really being in the fashion world, I didn't really know who she was or her impact, and then I got the crash course, just interviewing her for hours and hours to do this short film. And then we ended up talking about Invisible Beauty, and I was in the camp of people who said, you need to turn the camera on yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And the truth of it is that's something, the last thing I wanted to do, because I didn't think of it. But people would say, people who I weren't close to, people I didn't really know, they would hear, they say, oh, you're doing a film about the industry. I was trying to do a film. At that time, it was very important to do a film to expose the industry and to tell it through the story of 3 girls, models. And it was very interesting to me that I had the opportunity to do that, but at the same time, it just went dormant. And the good news of having him come into my life when I didn't know what to do, because my other director and I separated. And I was so frightened to try and do a film by myself, and I didn't want to do anything. I didn't know what to do, but I had come to the conclusion, listening to others, saying, but someone should do a film on you. And I kept thinking, what is there to do on me? I had really, believe me, it's hard to imagine when you see this film that I could think I didn't have a story. But I didn't see myself in that way. I was just a revolutionary. To me, it's just, you just, okay, what's happening? Pick up the call.
Somebody's phone is on.
But that would be me normally. It's true, I swear. But it was really good in the sense that I had the opportunity to have him when I felt alone And I remember, I always used to talk to him since we met, would talk to him every so often. And when my former director and I separated, I called him because I had grants already from the Ford Foundation and YSL. There was a North American president of YSL at the time who really believed in me and the film, and they gave us money. And so I had sat on this money for like 8, 9 years, and I didn't do
wow.
anything with it. And then when he came, he said, okay, let me see if I can help. And he and a couple of his friends started talking to me, but he could see how things were moving slow. He was finishing a film. He said, okay, I'm going to do your film. But I want you, only way I'll do it if you come in as my co-director. Then I thought, he's the guy.
Absolutely, because you want to tell your own story, right?
I didn't want to tell any
But
story.
if you're going to tell,
I'm not that ambitious, so I
if
really,
you're
it looks
going to
bad.
tell your own story, you want to be in the driver's
I didn't
seat.
think that. I didn't even think that. I'm just someone who always wanted to make documentaries.
Okay.
And I didn't go to school for it. I really mean it. When people see all the work I've done, I'm not ambitious. It looks like it because of the achievements, but it's done because things fall at your feet, you're capable. It's not like sitting there deciding, plotting and planning. But when we said, okay, I decided the film's going to be about me, and then he said that's what he's always thought, then okay, let's take it on. So then I thought, whatever we do, I trusted him. I loved the I Has to Travel, the Diana Vreeland film. I knew Mrs. Vreeland, and I was very impressed with that film. And I liked his work, the Dior and I film I liked. So I trusted him, and we had been talking for a few years.
Okay.
That's
But
what
it's true that it didn't come at all from a place of Beth Ann wanting to tell her own story.
No.
That's why I proposed, because I trusted that she wouldn't do that. She's not someone who wants to control or shape the story in such a way. I thought she would come in as a filmmaker, which is very different.
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing, too, because it's very important that people say, now people watch the film, a lot of people who know me, they see the film, a lot of my younger designers and kids I know, they think that I control the whole thing, that he's just a nice guy that's quiet, and that in the end of the day, that this was your thing. They have no idea. That's not true. Yeah.
So the working relationship was very balanced. you would
Yeah.
say.
It was very, like we were trying to impress each other, I think.
Well, at the beginning of the film, which I loved, and before I realized that you were co-directors, because you ask her at the beginning of the film, how do you think the film should start?
Yeah.
And at the end you say, well, how should we end it? And it seemed like a great symbiosis in that way, and also in the film, which I thought was fascinating. There's that, you talk about not thinking you have a story. There's a scene where your assistant and you are in a room in your apartment in New York, I believe, and you're just going through all of this treasure trove of stuff. It's like tapes and photographs, and you say old cameras that you have, so I'm sure there's film. Yeah. Did you go through those archives? Did you dive into that? And what
there was
did
a
you
lot.
find?
There was a lot. There was a lot. Beth Ann always thought she didn't have anything, and she was like, "Good luck with the archives," But
I didn't think, how are they gonna make a film about somebody? I wasn't a top print model. I was a runway girl. Mm-hmm. That's not pictures of runway girls, rare. I didn't even imagine I had anything, but I had no idea how much I did have that could help tell that story. And what I didn't have, like Issey Miyake, who I was very close to, and I produced a lot of his shows. He thought of me as his sister. Then we got that footage, and Paul, who was our other associate producer, he helped. He was the one who did all the archives. But they were so impressed because my young assistant was already beginning to digitize things because, Juliana Richardson had kept telling me, you gotta, save your things. You've gotta put your things in an institute. And I learned that. But before that, I was just throwing everything away. The lighter the load, the freer the journey.
No.
Oh, I would throw things away. I got to move. I did that. And then when she said
That's
that to
history.
me,
That's fashion
what
history.
Well, that's what she said. She explained that to me, the things you need to keep, and that's what we were lucky to have that.
But also Beth Ann wanted to organize her archives to, figure out where the papers were going to go eventually.
Yeah.
And also she was starting to write the memoir, so it was a perfect time for me to jump in and document,
Exactly.
at the moment when Beth Ann was looking back.
as you're in that mind frame, and I want to talk about the memoir. I'm not going to, as a fellow author, I'm not going to ask you if you're done with your edits. I won't do that to you. But there was a profound moment in the film, many profound moments in the film, but one when you were talking about sitting down and writing the memoir. When you're sitting across from Kierna Mayo, who I used to want to be as a young journalist
she was so good.
in New York. And you talk about the book being sort of like your act of service, which you are leaving to the next generation. I thought it was a beautiful way to frame storytelling, right? Like this offering. Can you talk about that? Like, you don't have to tell us if you're finished.
No,
but like in writing
I am not
the memoir.
finished. I'm so far from finished that they're sitting there like this. No, but in
writing the memoir, when you're thinking of your stories and wanting to leave those for the next generation, how are you sort of conceptualizing the memoir?
See, this is what I always say to everyone. Everyone who watches the film, I don't think there was, except for Tribeca, there was the only film screening that someone didn't say, what about the documentary? What's happening with it?
With the memoir.
Pardon me, with the memoir. And for me, it was very interesting to me because I keep saying to people, well, yeah, calm down, because my book is nothing like the film. I mean, of course, but they don't care because if I'm writing and telling the stories, I'm storytelling. You hear in the film where I say that my astrologer gave me this key. When I kept saying, my life is too big, how do I start to tell? And she said, it's the people you know. You tell their stories, that is your story. And that gave me the hook. So I could start writing about Andy Warhol, but it's Beth Ann speaking about it. So you begin to get this kind of difference, because you would never know who Andy Warhol through my eyes. You just hear about him. Or you can hear about Jean-Michel Basquiat, him giving me a whole pound of weed that I didn't ask for, that I thought he was going to give me a painting. These are things you can do.
Y'all caught that, right?
True story. True story. He's so happy to be giving me this. I mean, zip bags I don't even see they make anymore, full of marijuana, that he thought was going to be my gift for me getting Willie Smith to come and buy his art. And I'm thinking this could last me a lifetime. And he said, then we're good. So these are stories like this you can share with people that they would never know. So it's a memoir of me. You've seen the film, but it still tells a little bit more the way I experience others. And then a lot of things, how I feel, philosophies, the way I think, sharing things I believe, yeah.
And another thing that struck me about that moment in the film, and you talking about it sort of like being this act of service, and I wondered, we're in a library, what are those books for you? Because we see in your apartment, I mean, you've got like piles of these incredible books. I'm sure don't you all just want to like spend some time in Beth Ann's apartment?
Yes,
but
true.
what are those books for you that sort of like changed you or were impactful in your life in some
You
kind
know
of
what they
way?
make me feel? Like I have a lot of clutter. No. I hate to say this to a writer. But I look at those books and I can't let go because of the value of who they are. But sometimes I go through them and I think of Housing Works and places that could use books. And I just because I'm no longer a reader. Back in the 70s and the 60s, that was, revolutionary. You read, this is part of the revolution. You just do these things, you down, and you do things. You gotta be on it, because when you go into like little cafes and places, little parties, you have to be worthy. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to come with conversation. It ain't like lightweight like it is now.
Did you catch it? Did you catch the shade?
Yeah, I'm sorry. But in the end of the day, now I just get so many books, but I don't read them, but they're valuable. So I don't read. Honestly, and my agent says, please don't tell the publisher you don't read. I'm not a reader. I'm more of a person that goes right to film, television, movies. I'm that person by nature of my energy, but I do value books. Like I said in the film, They're like, you know, shoes. You go and buy them, and then you sit there and you wonder, what have I done? Yeah.
Well, we'll all be reading your book, which
Yes, it will.
everyone in this audience
I'll finish
and more.
it, I promise. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is very random. I saw you, you didn't see me, at the Brooklyn Museum this summer at the Jay-Z exhibit. And it was so funny. You walked past me. I said to him, I was like, that's my Santa. And he was just like, girl, what? And I was too chicken to say hello. Hello. But Brooklyn looms so large in the making of you. And you have this quote in the film where you say, you talk about a place either being your foundation or your limitation.
Oh, that's interesting. Did I really have that
You
kind
said,
of info?
yes, you said it. Listen, you had I'm calling them
Good
Beth
line.
Ann isms. And I'm sure, Frederick,
There's a
you
lot
noticed
of
them
them,
all,
right?
made sure they're
Yeah.
in this film. But can you expand
That's
on that?
true.
How did you lean into one versus the other, right? This place being so much a part of who you are, right? But it not limiting you in any
Oh,
way.
it gave me everything. It's so wonderful to come from Brooklyn. It's everything. Everybody who's ever come from, I've met people in Sweden who came from Brooklyn. I mean, the idea of coming from Brooklyn is everything. Brooklyn gives you such stamina. It gives you style. And that's the thing that was very knowing for me. I did a lot of things. You hear me in the film. I gang fight. I was everything. Everything I could do, from the PAL, running track, to gang fighting, to becoming a cheerleader, to everything. I really just utilized opportunity within my shell. But then you got to get to Manhattan. And now people leave Manhattan to go to Brooklyn. And that's a cultural thing because they want to be around more people who look like them and feel like them. And I'm always a person who likes to come from where I come from. I'm a person who likes to come from who I am and get to know other people that don't look anything like me. That's why I went to Wingate, when it was just an all-white school. And even though I would have gone to another all-white, pretty much white school, performing arts, this white guy came into an all-black neighborhood and sold us, and I didn't know at the time it was busing. But the idea of coming from Brooklyn is everything, because the foundation it gives you, the energy it gives you, is everything. But you have to come on earth being somebody anyway. I've decided that writing the book. You just can't just decide. But if you are somebody, you're going to do things, I believe. And I have no ambition. I mean, when you look at the film, you say, oh, you have to be ambitious. No, you don't have to be ambitious. You have to be someone who is meant to do things. And that's just like what falls at your feet. And so I think with the limitations of Brooklyn, if you stayed there, I couldn't have done more. But the genius of it is coming into a white environment and then recognizing the responsibility I had. It was a white guy who made me feel self-conscious about not being on my own. He said, you like to work for other people. Why? When you could do things on your own. I don't want to do anything on my own. That sounds like I ain't going to get a vacation. Sounds like I don't have any money to do anything like that. Let me work for other people and help. He said, no, come on, you get to do something on your own while everyone still knows you and helps you. And that was Joe McDonald. He was one of the first people I know that died of AIDS. And I promise you, that was something he made me feel guilty about being lazy. Because I have a wonderful desire, tequila in a hammock. I love to just lay back. I'm not trying to be.
I don't think anyone on planet Earth would describe you as lazy ever.
No, that's right. You wouldn't, but I do. And I embrace it because I think it's a very good quality to have when you know that you are, but you're not trying to do anything. You just, like Naomi, she called me all the time. You got to come back from Mexico. There's things happening. Things are changing. There's no black girls on the runway, blah, 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 blah. They're banging me on my head. So I'm the one that could maybe come in and make things better. Okay. But do you think I really wanted to do that?
Okay, we're going to get to that. I want to pull you in, Frederick, because I want to pull with you and Frederick about this idea of New York. I love something that you said in your answer earlier about utilizing everything within your shell. But then you gotta come out of the shell. You gotta crack out of the shell, right, to really be who you want to be. But and then come to Manhattan. And what I loved about the film, Frederick, is those scenes of just you walking the streets of New York, right? And it's just like you stalking the streets, you rush into a runway show. How important was it for the film to show like New York, Manhattan as a place, because it is fashion mecca, but it doesn't seem there's like an energy there.
It's not a fashion film.
It's not a fashion film, but you felt the streets of New York. When I think about fashion,
Streets
I think
of New
about
York.
people
That
like
was the-
stalking the streets of New York, and you
Yeah.
were doing that.
That was one of the first scenes we shot, actually.
Yeah.
Like the day of your long interview, which was kind of really the first shoot, and Stephen Burrows, and then you on the street. And that sort of set the tone for the film a little
Oh, yeah. Him and we had a wonderful
bit. DP.
DP. It's a female girl. Oh, that's a girl and a female, same thing. That was funny. Female
Mia.
girl. Yeah,
Mia
well, she was a
Trophy
female
Henry.
girl. But yeah,
That was her first day, yeah.
was
we
wonderful.
We can't get Beth Ann in Brooklyn anyway. She won't go back to Brooklyn. She won't cross the bridge anymore.
no, I am a snob. But I do go. I have to go. Sometimes you just gotta go. But I am a snob. You come from Brooklyn, you're down with Brooklyn, and then you see how Brooklyn's changed, and it's not what you came from. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Not the place you remember, not the place of
It's
your
not what you
youth.
came from. They're all happy there and all that, but it's not the Brooklyn that I know.
You shouldn't feel safe walking your dog at 2 in the morning.
Ah, point. But you don't, right?
No, but they do now.
Oh, they do feel. They do have a lot of dogs. That's one thing. We didn't
Lot
have
of
no
dogs, lot of
we
walking.
couldn't afford to feed anybody other than ourselves. No, that's true. I went back when I did the Kate Spade shoot, this
Yeah.
campaign. This is a very interesting point.
That was the only scene we had in
I
Brooklyn.
saw, and it was 2 blocks from where I grew up. I never saw so many dogs and white people. Good point.
There you go.
Okay.
That showing that Brooklyn has changed. Okay, we don't have too much time, but I want to get in a couple more questions before we open it up. Motherhood looms large in the film, right? These days, everybody's, the term mother, hip hop, ballroom. You are an actual mother.
Yeah.
You have a son, Kadeem
Yes.
Hardison, an incredible actor. But you're also a mother to hundreds,
Yeah,
I would
many,
say,
many
of
people.
models. You've nurtured really an entire industry. Is that work, you say in the film, the work that you do, your activism, it's work, but it's a fight, but you keep doing it. But it's also a lot of emotional labor, right? You talk about in the film, you're not when you were an agent, I'm not just an agent.
No.
You were really giving of yourself emotionally to so many
Yeah,
people.
but I don't feel that way, though.
Okay.
That's the difference about being who you are. You come to Earth to be. I'm a compassionate soul. I came to Earth to do these things. So it's not like it's extracurricular activity. It really is truly, that's exactly, with Tyson, all of them. When they made me have a model agency, the last thing I want to do is have don't make me curse, model agency. But at the end of the day, I wind up having it. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it in a way that's going to educate the people I represent. I have to think about these are people's children, and I don't want them thinking they're working for me. We're working together. I had to educate them. So you have a different attitude about how you approach it. And so for me, it was really important to be conscious. And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it differently than everybody else around me was doing. And I was the first boutique agency that came out when I left Click. So I had this opportunity, but it had a white model agency. I had to compete against my white counterparts. I had to get those white girls and boys and those black girls and boys and then those Asian kids and those Latin kids. I was determined to make that in a model agency that represented how we should see the world. But I knew I had to lead with white kids. And I had to go up against my white counterpart because the first thing they were saying about me is that I had, when a white kid wanted to come see me, they go around and see different agencies, and they maybe were young and they had their parents. And even though no one could say anything bad about me, my white counterparts would say things like, well, she's really great. Yeah, no, Beth Ann, you're going to see her next? That's great. But I want to tell you, she has a lot of black models. I don't know if you'll be able to work, and because she really has to focus on them. They would do that. To sort of deter anybody if they wanted that girl or that person. Some of them would still come, and they would see what I had and who I was. But that was something I had to go up against, so I had to always constantly. Did I ever answer your question?
You did, but I was asking about the motherhood aspect because Naomi.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Naomi Campbell calls you mom.
Yeah, she did.
And
because
Tyson Beckford's up here crying, when he's talking
Wasn't
about
that
you.
amazing?
But
Whoa.
it's like you have truly, truly impacted these people, and there was a.
Oh, with Naomi.
I almost
Iman?
got
Yeah.
Iman. I almost got teary-eyed. I don't know about you all in that scene where she's talking about. She called you the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, that was the Statue of Liberty.
Because you showed her human kindness.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like that kind of emotional work, everyone doesn't do that. And I think that's, you say in the documentary how people have put a lot of, not put it on you, but you've assumed that role. It doesn't get tiring?
No, doing for others never get tiring. It might, but I don't know it. If it does, I don't know it, because here I sit tonight. And I just came out of, like I told you my day already, the passport office.
She's been up all day, y'all.
And then you have to go to Morocco in 4 days and 5 days. And he used to say all the time, talking to audiences when we were on a film festival circuit, I would be talking, and he'd stop and he'd say, listen, let me tell you something. Do you see how hard she's working? She works so hard. And I never think of that. I never think that I'm doing anything extra. But, there are people know how old a person like me is, and that I'm capable of keep on like this. So that says a lot. But when it comes down to giving to Naomi or Tyson was a piece of work, come on. No, he was hardcore. But that was my baby. He was my guy. He could take me, woo. Naomi is different because Naomi, I didn't ever have to represent, but she was always in my life. I had to help guide. She had, she's a Buffalo Soldier. She comes into it. She's 16 years old. She didn't take no stuff from nobody. She was tough. And she would come to me with problems with her agent. And the same thing with Iman. They had me to be the outside, and thank God I didn't represent them. I thought I wanted to represent Naomi, but it worked out that I didn't have to, and I could be who she always looked at, because I met her when she was 14. She's 50 years old now. And to think about those times on earth and that I'm still nimble and quick in some way and, able to ride and keep it moving. So I don't get tired of it, but I definitely respect it very much. And like I said, him, meaning Frederick, having the opportunity to work with me and to really show me who I was and am in that whole time frame really had set my head in a different direction, because I got to know who I was too. Because I really was naive. I was just busy doing the work, doing the things, being who I was, getting to the next thing, not recognizing that this was who I really wind up being.
And I would add that, I've realized, going through the footage and interviewing all the people that had been impacted by Beth Ann's actions, that and just being around her, that this is what she does. This is what she likes to do, is to see people thrive. And she'll do it when she doesn't have to, when no one's looking. Really when no one's looking, like when really no one's looking. And
I taught him how to make a bed.
But
that's true.
It's simple things, you know what I mean?
But I like, we're out of time. I'm going to end it here, but I like that note that you said, she's doing all this when no one's looking, but you're looking, right? That's what the film is, looking at the stuff that you were doing that we all know, and the stuff that none of us knew.
That's the thing, and that's the thing I say to many people come to me and said, I didn't know this, younger people who maybe, they're 26 years old. And I always keep saying to everyone, people who've known me 20, 30 years didn't know all of that. They heard, they knew, but they didn't know how it happened. And the great thing about him being the fly on the wall who wanted to capture and learn. That's why it was great that he could sit with Whoopi Goldberg and listen to her tell him what she knew, or sit with Zendaya, or sit with any of them. What Tyson did amazed me, his interview. He told me when he did it, finished it, he said, this is going to be a great film. So it was really kind of good. What's that music? I like that tune. What's the beat?
And it is a great film. And we want to open it up to questions.
Yes.
The lovely, yep.
Right in front of you.
How you doing? I want to first.
Can someone knock that light out?
this could be difficult.
Because it's very important to be able to see who's speaking. For me.
Thank you.
There you go. Bueno. Could do better.
She is producing this talk.
I produce everything. That's what I do.
I want to
Much better.
first start by saying thank you all for coming. My 2 questions are for you, Ms. Hardison. The first one is, when you began your modeling journey, how were you able to remain grounded when you were overwhelmed?
Did you say, when I first began my modeling, how did I stay grounded?
Yes.
Because I was grounded. And let me explain something to you. I was a runway model. It's not print girls. I'm just a runway model. I'm working in the garment industry. I work with designers. You become a muse. You're just really, it's the coolest life. And also, I want you to know, I had a full-time job the whole time I modeled. No other model had that. I couldn't afford, I didn't even know how people even could be a model and make enough money to pay your rent. But it was lucky for me that people liked me and they would hire me. And it was lucky for me the person I had a full-time job let me go off and do things. So, I mean, I didn't have to stay grounded because I was grounded.
Thank you.
Lucky for me.
And my second question is, for an inspiring model like myself, what advice would you give?
Learn technology. Try not to want to be a model, but even though it calls you because you want it. And you could, because you look it. And there's so many people out there that are models right now. It's so many. But as you do it, and if you don't send your pictures to many, please do. Send your photographs to whoever will accept looking at photographs in the industry, reputable agencies. And you know who they are. Look them up. Get enough 4 or 5 no's. As you're doing it, start thinking about what else would you do in your life if you didn't model. Move it along, because it's a short life. And there's thousands of girls. I'm going to kill you with that sound. Okay, okay. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. There's a young lady over there that raised her hand first. She did. But please, I want to remember what I said. Don't take it lightly. Look out for yourself. That's what I mean. Don't count on people deciding who you are.
Thank you. My question is, I love how you like to tell the truth. What has been the hardest truth for you to swallow?
For myself? Mm-hmm. That people believe I can do things more than I think I can. Like, everything I've done, other people made me do it. I never thought I could do. I didn't want to have a model agency. I was excellent at it. I didn't want to do a film about me. Look what happened. I didn't, so many things. I didn't want to ever get married, but I liked the guys, so I married them. I mean, it works for 7 years. That's all you need. I say that in the film, don't I?
Yeah. You do. And it's funny because in the film, it was a surprise. All of a sudden, it was like, and then my husband, I was like, where did he come from?
I mean, 7 years usually is that time that everyone starts looking at each other. Yeah, you know, there's 7 year itch or something. It's a challenge, 7 years. Yeah, that's interesting, 7 years. Yeah.
Hello,
Hi, beauty.
I'm Oluwatoyin. This is my daughter. I wanted to know, from a mother's point of view, how did you find balance, especially when your son was at his prime? And I'm trying to find balance through motherhood, advocacy in my line of work, and I'm so inspired by
I
you.
know what you mean.
And you share the birthday with Virgil Abloh. You two are like my favorite. Yeah.
Wow. I do share with Virgil?
Yes.
I never knew that.
Yes.
I got Virgil. When Virgil
sorry, I
was
know
sick, and
more than-
Virgil was sick, but he didn't tell me. Kadeem, being the b-boy he is, wanted these sneakers that he couldn't get because, you know, they go to Robot or some old bot or something, I didn't say. And he asked me, once again, Kadeem is forever a b-boy, sneakers. And I had to call Virgil, and Virgil sent him to it because he was going to Berlin to do a film, and he sent it to him. I didn't know we had the same birthday. Thank you. Good question. You're about the fourth person in our festivals that asked about motherhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing too. It is a balance, you know, when you are who you are and you just are who you are, and you know, and the kids just have to keep up. You know, sometimes, I mean, I didn't plan to have a child, so it's not like I planned it and me and my husband, the picket fence thing. No, it didn't happen like that. I was young, and I got pregnant. So in the end of the day, it works out nice that Kadeem was an easy spirit. He was so easy, and always has been, always will be, and he's gentle. So it wasn't so hard, and I helped him to believe that something he could be, and he was capable of it. He was an actor. He could be an actor. So he went off. But the story that was interesting for me that he got out of Kadeem, by sitting there talking to him, I learned a lot about how he thought, you know, too. So it's interesting. It is a balance. But in the end of the day, I hate to say this straight up, I really think it's really about us. In the end, they have to keep up. Because in the end of the day, if we don't do well for ourselves, they're not going to be able to help us in the end. Because they're just, you know what I mean? You got to look out for yourself. And you have to tell them from straight up in the beginning, listen, keep up. That's what I told my son. He wanted to come back and live with me. All right. When he was 9, he came back to live with me from my mother, and I had to tell him, this is the deal. I'll pay the rent, you do the schoolwork. You stay on top of your school, and I'll find a way to pay the rent. All the time. We had a deal. When he slipped, I was like, okay, now we got a problem. And even though I would go to Studio 54 and hang out and do things, if I came home and he was still like slumped over the books and didn't finish, I'd make him wake up. And you know, you got to be sort of tough love in some way, and that's what he explains that in the film too. But he winds up loving you anyway because you know what? You didn't skip the beat. So let me see your face, daughter. How old are you? Oh, that's a dangerous age. You need to not be so sassy. I can see that right now. Lord have mercy. I would never, I don't want to say to you, this 14-year-old, but that's a tough age. You got to be really light and respect, you know, because you're going to be her someday. So just be easy. Give her some space, you know, support her. You're going to do that for me? Please do that for me. Don't let me walk out of here and thinking she said she's going to do it and don't do it. You a supporter? Oh, good. That's my girl. Good, thank you. Thank you for that question.
Hi, Beth and everybody. Good evening. Thank you for sharing the story about Jean-Michel Basquiat. I share a birthday with him, so that was a fun fact.
Whose birthday?
Basquiat.
Oh, Jean-Michel.
Yes. My question is about the industry and impact that you've made. I recently bought the January issue of Vogue, specifically British Vogue, and Essence magazine for January. And when I looked at the adverts that were in both of them, there was such a stark difference. Because in Vogue, you have things like Prada taking out, you know, full-page ads, Louis Vuitton, Dior, and so forth. But in Essence, you have like Smart Water, NyQuil, which are all helpful, but it's not at the same level. And the consumer of Essence does buy the things that you find in the Vogue magazine. So in your view, what is the future of Black print or like Black media in Essence? And what more can be done to cater to Black luxury consumers as a whole subset,
Yeah.
should we be focusing on, like you do, with working with young designers that are up and coming, and then
Yes.
encouraging them to buy space in essence? But how do we, kind of keep that image of?
The thing that you got to understand about Essence Magazine, since I was there from the beginning when Reginald Lewis and all them started it, it's not a fashion magazine. It's a lifestyle magazine. And when you can recognize that and not feel like bad because it's our magazine, because it is ours, it is a lifestyle magazine. And a lot of the editors that came along, they long, like your young lady here that wants to be a model, they long to be editors in fashion. So they would go to the fashion shows and all. But the luxury brands don't see that as their audience. No matter who comes and buys it, there's not enough of it. Well, my thing is they're not my thing is that if they're not interested in us, I'm not interested in them. I mean, I don't sweat it. I mean, I'm going to still go buy something that's a brand at some point too. But I understand that that's the marketing, and that's what it is. And Essence has had a struggle for a long time, and sometimes they've got lucky and somebody would come on into it. And now that Essence has changed again, they've gone through so many hands. That's the reason why too. But with the young brands that I know, and that's part of my designer hub, they get through. They're in Vogue and Bazaar, and they're doing retail, which is not the easiest thing either. It's a struggle. That industry is really hard. So that's a good question too. But all we can do is just pray for everybody. That's a terrible old Southern expression. Let's call it a cop-out.
You got to put that on a T-shirt. I think we are going to wrap it. I'm going to ask.
No, I want to ask her. Please. The blonde, and then you. Oh, the blonde. Well, you're blonde. Yeah.
I really appreciate your honesty. I think it's also very witty and funny, so it comes off warm. But I'm assuming that it doesn't always feel that way. Are there any lines for you about when you won't be as honest?
When it isn't what?
Do you have lines about your honesty, or are you always just honest? Because your son said, don't call her if you don't want her to.
Oh. He'll tell you. No, that's true. It is. It's very difficult for me. And also I'm a comedian, in a way. I'm very quick and witty. So I say a lot of shit out of my mouth that just comes quick to me. It just seems like, it's just comedy sometimes. It's just quick-wittedness. But I also, like Jane Rosenthal, who created, with Bob De Niro, the Tribeca Film Festival, she used to say always, and she'd stand in front of all the filmmakers, and she'd say, now let me just tell you one thing. If you don't really want to know about your film, don't ask Beth Ann. And she would single me out that way. And it'd be true, because you come to me and ask me, I'm going to tell you the truth, right or wrong. And that's the same thing when I had a model agency. But I got a lot of letters from people who said to me, thank you for putting me in the right direction, as I say to you, because you have the quality of being a model. But if they stop you, don't you stop. You know what I mean? So in that way, yes, that's true. I have that honesty. Go ahead, pink sweatshirt.
Hi, Ms. Beth Ann. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story and letting us into your life. I feel like you're a true national treasure. I've been following you for a long time.
Oh, thank you.
I was tearing up so much.
Isn't that true that the film is emotional, no?
It's so emotional. I didn't expect it to be so emotional.
I know.
I came here with my book, so my name is Tanya Myers. I was a graduate of NYU Costume Studies and Visual Culture, and my thesis work got published. And you're in here, and I would love nothing more than to get your autograph.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait. That's nice. Wait. Hold on.
Yes.
You want to get my autograph, but you don't want to give me a book.
You should have brought two.
All right, wait, let the audience, let the judges decide what you think is right and wrong. It may be the only one you came with, I understand all that, but it doesn't seem right to the audience. I mean, judges, come on.
Yes. There you go.
It's not a poster, and I'll give you my
Believe me, you can. Honey, I will sign your book. The last thing I need is another book. I'm excited. I am so proud of you. I'm proud of you. Thank you so much for this. Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm so happy you mentioned Stephen, because Stephen means everything to me, as did Willie Smith. So thank you very much for that. I'll sign your book. Oh my God, she's really embarrassing me. You really came through. Good on you, good on us. Thank you so much for that.
We are going, y'all, we are over time.
Okay, we're over time.
We could stay all night talking to Miss Beth Ann Hardison. Thank you so much for this gift of a film. Frederick, thank you.